Pacific Ocean, July 30th, 1945. 12 minutes. That's how long it took for the USS Indianapolis to vanish beneath the waves after Japanese submarine I-58 struck her with torpedoes, taking 879 men down into the crushing black. Welcome to the War Maestro's archive, where tonight we explore why some survivors swore the sharks weren't the worst thing waiting in those waters. The USS Indianapolis cut through the Pacific with quiet purpose on July 28, 1945. Her mission completed. The components for Little Boy, the atomic bomb that would devastate Hiroshima, safely delivered to Tinian Island. Captain Charles McVeigh III stood on the bridge, a cigarette dangling from his lips, his eyes scanning the dark horizon. Naval intelligence had deemed their route safe, no escort necessary. Petty Officer Second Class Eli Morgan leaned against the railing, salt spray kissing his face. In his pocket, a small leather journal where he recorded his thoughts, fears, and dreams of returning to the Gulf Coast, where he'd grown up swimming through warm, friendly waters. He'd always trusted the sea. Now he carried the weight of what they'd just delivered, a weapon that would kill thousands. You ever think about what that thing will do? Machinist's mate Jenkins muttered beside him. The package. Morgan shrugged. Not our job to think about it. Still feels like blood on our hands, though. At 0014 hours on July 30th, the ocean answered. 2 torpedoes from Japanese submarine Y-58 found their mark. The first blew away the bow. The second struck amidships, igniting fuel tanks and powder magazines. The great warship shuddered like a wounded animal. No SOS was transmitted. No nearby ships witnessed her distress. The cruiser listed hard to starboard. Morgan found himself in the water, surrounded by oil, fire, and the screams of burning men. The sea swallowed their cries with indifferent hunger. He clung to a floating net with 7 others, their faces illuminated by distant flames dancing on the water's surface. By dawn, nearly 900 men were dead. Over 300 remained alive, scattered across miles of open ocean in small groups. Navy Command, unaware of their sinking, filed no search parties. From Morgan's recovered journal, first entry, the sharks arrived as the sun rose. But even as they circled, all I could think about was the cargo we delivered. How many will die from what we brought to Tinian? The water feels different somehow, like it knows what we've done, like it's watching us, judging us. The first day passed in a blur of scorching sun and desperate prayers. Morgan's group had managed to find a partially inflated life raft, now crowded with 8 men. Their skin blistered under the merciless Pacific sun, lips cracking from dehydration and salt exposure. No water, no food, just the endless rocking of waves. As dusk approached, Lieutenant Harrison pulled himself halfway into the raft, water still lapping at his legs. "Keep your limbs out of the water at night," he ordered, voice hoarse. Sharks feed at dusk and dawn. No one needed convincing. They'd all seen what happened to Reynolds earlier that day. The water around him had suddenly boiled red. His scream cut off with shocking abruptness. Night fell like a shroud, complete darkness with no moon, only stars reflected on the obsidian surface. Morgan stared into the blackness, his mind replaying the classified briefing about their cargo. Uranium, a new kind of bomb, cities reduced to ash. At 2100 hours, Jenkins began screaming. Morgan's journal recorded, "Jenkins went under tonight. 1 minute beside me, the next gone. Not like Reynolds, no thrashing, no blood, just gone." Then the screaming started from below, lasted nearly a minute. Too long for a drowning man. Too long. I swear it sounded like he was talking to someone down there. The survivors huddled closer, silent except for ragged breathing. Lieutenant Harrison kept checking his waterlogged watch. counting minutes until dawn. "Listen," whispered radio man Alvarez around midnight. "You hear that?" They strained their ears. A faint sound carried across the water. Not quite voices, not quite whispers. Something between the two. "Wind against the waves," Harrison said firmly. "Wind doesn't sound like voices speaking Japanese," Alvarez replied. Morgan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the water temperature. He'd heard it too. Faint words in a language he didn't understand but recognized from combat, as if their enemies lurked just beneath them. By morning, 2 more men had vanished without struggle or sound. No blood, no evidence of shark attack. Outside the raft, a perfect line of shark fins circled their position, but they weren't attacking. Just waiting. "They're not acting right," Seaman Walsh whispered. "Almost like they're listening for something." From the Navy's classified medical report dated August 5, 1945. Survivors exhibit unusual consistency in reported auditory hallucinations. Multiple subjects describe hearing Japanese voices underwater, despite documented absence of enemy vessels in the area. Day 2 brought relentless sun and deepening thirst. Morgan's skin felt paper-thin, stretched too tight across his skull. His tongue swelled against cracked lips as he scanned the empty horizon. No ships, no planes, no rescue. By midday, Lieutenant Harrison had stopped speaking altogether, conserving moisture with military discipline. The 5 remaining men in their group drifted in and out of consciousness. The sharks maintained their vigil, fins breaking the surface in that same unnatural formation. "Water," Walsh croaked, pointing weakly at a canteen floating 20 yards away, metal glinting in the sun. "I see water." There was nothing there. Morgan knew it. Harrison knew it too, grabbing Walsh's arm as the young sailor tried to slide into the sea. "Hallucination," Harrison rasped. "Stay in the raft." Walsh thrashed with unexpected strength. "You're hoarding it. I can see it right there." His eyes were wild, pupils contracted to pinpoints despite the glare. The struggle sent ripples across the previously calm surface. In an instant, 3 shark fins changed direction, cutting through the water toward them with terrible purpose. "Stop," Morgan hissed. "They're coming." Walsh froze, clarity momentarily returning to his gaze. The sharks stopped too, resuming their circular pattern exactly 30 feet away. "They're waiting for something," Alvarez whispered, "like they know." As afternoon faded into evening, Morgan noticed familiar shapes in the water. Not sharks, but human forms just beneath the surface. The floating bodies of his drowned shipmates. Only, they seemed to be moving in formation, circling like the sharks. Walsh began conversing with the water, leaning dangerously over the side. "Yes, I hear you," he murmured. "I know what we did. I know what we carried." Harrison tried to pull him back, but Walsh shoved him away. "They're saying we brought death," he insisted. "The Japanese we've killed, they're under us now." From Morgan's journal, Walsh talks to them constantly. Claims the men we killed at sea over these past years have been waiting for us, waiting for revenge. I keep telling myself it's the dehydration making him crazy. But I heard them too last night. And what if they know about the bomb? What if they know what we helped deliver? As night fell again, Morgan noticed something in the shark movements. They formed deliberate patterns now, almost like signals. Between them swam the bodies of dead sailors, some American, some unmistakably Japanese in tattered uniforms. The most disturbing part, all the corpses had the same expression, eyes open, watching, waiting. From the official Naval Intelligence Report, August 3rd, 1945. Survivor group testimonies contain disturbing consistencies regarding visual and auditory hallucinations, specifically mentioning enemy combatants from previous Pacific engagements. Recommend immediate psychological evaluation of all survivors upon rescue. Dawn of the third day revealed only 4 men remaining in Morgan's raft. Walsh had vanished during the night watch. No splash, no scream. Simply gone while Alvarez dozed for mere minutes. "I swear I only closed my eyes for a second," Alvarez insisted, voice trembling. "He was right here." Morgan peered into the water, noting something strange about the bodies now visible below. "Look at them," he urged. His companions followed his gaze to the pale forms suspended beneath them. "The wounds are wrong." Lieutenant Harrison squinted through salt-crusted eyelashes. "What do you mean?" "Shark bites are ragged, torn. These are..." Morgan struggled to find the word. "Clean, like bayonet wounds or knife cuts." They all saw it now. The bodies floating 10 feet down had perfect circular punctures, edges unnaturally precise, like combat wounds, but methodical. Identical. Nearby, another group of survivors called out, 6 men clinging to a section of deck plating. Morgan recognized Chief Petty Officer Simmons among them. Simmons cupped his hands, voice carrying across 50 yards of ocean. "Any of you boys seeing the Japs in the water?" Harrison motioned for silence, but too late. Simmons's words triggered something. The sharks moved suddenly, converging on the other group's position. Water erupted in a frenzy of movement. 5 seconds of screaming, then stillness. The sharks returned to their formation, now tighter around Morgan's raft. Through the day, they drifted close enough to 3 more survivor groups to establish a pattern. Those who spoke of what they saw beneath the waves disappeared that night. Those who maintained silence lasted longer. From Morgan's journal, "It's the guilt. Has to be. Every man who mentions seeing the enemy below dies next. Those who deny it live. Something about acknowledging them seems to summon them." By late afternoon, Machinist's mate Rodriguez began laughing uncontrollably, pointing at empty air. "They're wearing parts of our uniform now," he sobbed. "American caps on Japanese faces, dog tags around their necks. They're becoming us." Morgan exchanged glances with Harrison. The lieutenant's expression remained blank, but his eyes betrayed his terror. "The sharks aren't hunting," Rodriguez continued, laughter becoming sobs. "They're guarding, keeping us in place until night falls." As darkness approached, Morgan noticed something in the water, not phosphorescence, but perfect circular patterns where the bodies seemed to be assembling, arranging themselves into rows, like soldiers preparing for inspection. From Corporal Edgar Harrell's recorded testimony, September 1945. "I saw things in that water no man should see. Japanese sailors we'd killed months back, watching us, our own dead, swimming with them, the way those sharks moved, like they were being directed by something, and the wounds on the bodies, like execution marks. They weren't feeding, they were punishing." The 4th day broke with only Morgan and Harrison alive in their raft. Rodriguez had slipped beneath the waves around midnight, whispering about American uniforms on enemy bodies as he went. He hadn't struggled, almost peaceful, almost willing. The sharks remained, but their behavior had changed again. They now approached only after sunset, as if they understood when human vision was weakest, as if they were intelligent enough to exploit weakness. "We need to stay awake tonight," Harrison said, voice barely audible through cracked lips. "Both of us. All night." Morgan nodded, though he knew it might be impossible. 72 hours without water had left them barely functional. His kidneys ached fiercely. His thoughts came slow and disjointed. Every blink threatened to become unconsciousness. Midday brought a new development. The water around them cleared of bodies. One moment Morgan could see his fallen comrades floating beneath them. The next, the sea was empty, as if something had collected them, harvested them. "You see that?" he asked Harrison, who stared fixedly at a point on the horizon. "Lieutenant?" Morgan repeated, touching Harrison's shoulder. Harrison turned slowly, eyes unfocused. "I recognize him now," he said. "The one leading them." "Who?" "Commander of the Japanese destroyer we sank off Leyte. I watched him through my binoculars as his ship went down. He saluted as the water took him." Harrison's gaze drifted back to the water. "Now he's down there wearing Captain McVeigh's cap." Morgan saw it then. 20 feet below, a lone figure in a tattered Japanese naval uniform, wearing the unmistakable cap of their captain. The face looked up with cold recognition. From Morgan's journal. "It can't be real. Has to be hallucination. But we're both seeing the same thing." The Japanese commander Harrison recognized. He's collecting our dead, organizing them. And the worst part, he's wearing pieces of our officers' uniforms. Like he's assuming command of a new, combined fleet. As the sun touched the horizon, Harrison began to convulse. "I was an officer on 5 ships," he confessed between spasms. "We sank 8 enemy vessels, watched hundreds of Japanese sailors drown." His eyes rolled back. "They've been keeping count. They know exactly what we've done." From the declassified medical report on Lieutenant James Harrison, August 4th, 1945. Subject exhibits extreme dehydration consistent with 4 days at sea. Claims to see deceased Japanese naval officers organizing American casualties underwater. Subject repeatedly murmurs identical phrases. They're creating something from both sides. A new navy. A ghost fleet. Harrison slipped into the water at sunset. No splash, no resistance. He rolled over the edge, eyes open, almost relieved. Morgan was alone now, waiting for night to fall, waiting for whatever had been assembling itself below to complete its task. From his position, he could see 5 other rafts scattered across the darkening water. On each, a single survivor remained, just like him. Night fell on the 4th day. Morgan fought desperately to stay awake, pinching his legs, biting his tongue, anything to maintain consciousness. The stars reflected on the water's surface, creating the illusion of infinite depth, both above and below. He was suspended between 2 voids. The sharks had vanished completely, their absence more terrifying than their presence. Around midnight, Morgan noticed lights beneath the surface. Not phosphorescence, but something steadier, more purposeful. Flashlights. Standard Navy issue. The same kind they used on the Indianapolis during night operations. His journal, recovered later, recorded, "They're using our equipment now. Our flashlights, our signal lamps. I can see familiar faces among them. Jenkins, Walsh, Rodriguez, mixed with Japanese sailors I don't recognize. They're communicating somehow, organizing. The most terrifying part is that they seem peaceful together, united, like whatever divided us in life doesn't matter now. Only their shared purpose matters." At 0200 hours, Morgan noticed the other survivor rafts drifting closer, drawn by invisible currents toward a central point. In each raft, a single man remained, each staring blankly down into the water as if hypnotized by the lights below. One by one, they began to speak in unison, reciting what sounded like a list of ship names. Morgan recognized them all. Vessels sunk by American forces throughout the Pacific campaign. A grim casualty list intoned like a prayer. The water between the rafts began to stir, not from sharks, but from dozens of pale hands reaching upward from below. American and Japanese sailors rising to the surface, their uniforms fused together in impossible ways, their faces a blur of Asian and Western features. Morgan scrambled to the edge of his raft, prepared to paddle away, when a shock of recognition froze him in place. Among the rising figures was his brother Michael, killed at Pearl Harbor. But his features were wrong, half merged with a Japanese sailor's face, his uniform a patchwork of U.S. Navy blues and Imperial Japanese white. "We delivered death," Morgan whispered, understanding finally dawning. "For years, both sides, and now death has come to collect." The merged figures rose higher, now standing waist-deep in impossibly calm water. Their movements were synchronized, military precision from two navies now working as one. Morgan realized with horror that they were forming a boarding party, coming for the survivors. From Morgan's final journal entry that night, "I understand now. This isn't random. They're taking the men who delivered the bomb first, the ones who made it possible. That's why the Indianapolis. That's why us. We're being court-martialed by the dead of both sides." At that moment, the boarding party surged toward his raft. Morgan had time for one final observation. As they approached, their faces shifted between American and Japanese features, like two photographs superimposed. Enemies in life, unified in death. From Captain Lewis Haynes's classified testimony, August 8, 1945. "The survivor we pulled from Group 7 kept repeating the same phrase. We started something that can never be finished. When we asked what he meant, he just laughed and said, 'The dead of both sides have reached a peace agreement, and it begins with punishing those who escalated the killing.'" August 2nd, 1945, Day 5. A Navy PV-1 Ventura bomber on routine patrol spotted unusual debris in the water. Lieutenant Wilbur Gwynn banked his aircraft lower, recognizing the scattered remnants of a large vessel and what appeared to be men in the water. "Indianapolis survivors sighted," he radioed back to base. "Multiple men in water. Request immediate rescue." By afternoon, Lieutenant Adrian Marks had landed his PBY Catalina seaplane directly on the rough ocean, beginning the rescue operation despite dangerous swells threatening to tear his aircraft apart. USS Cecil J. Doyle arrived hours later, followed by more ships. Of the 1,195 men who had sailed on Indianapolis, only 316 were pulled from the Pacific. Morgan was among them, fished from his raft in a state of severe dehydration and inexplicable terror. Naval medical reports described him as severely malnourished, exhibiting signs of extreme psychological trauma. The medical officer noted, "Subject recoils from physical contact with Navy personnel, particularly officers. Repeatedly asks if they are real Americans or the merged ones." His leather journal, waterlogged but mostly legible, was confiscated immediately by naval intelligence. Its contents deemed classified until 1975. At the Naval Hospital in Guam, Morgan was kept in isolation, separated from other survivors. Outside his medical chart, a simple notation: subject claims to have witnessed deceased American and Japanese naval personnel working in concert. Potential security risk. Dr. Malcolm Winters conducted Morgan's psychological evaluation, noting, "Patient insists the Japanese and American dead have formed an alliance beneath the waves. Claims they specifically targeted Indianapolis because of its connection to the atomic bomb, which they viewed as an unconscionable escalation of warfare." On August 6, 1945, as Morgan lay restrained in his hospital bed, the Enola Gay dropped Little Boy on Hiroshima. 80,000 people vaporized instantly. That same night, Morgan began screaming. Nurses reported he thrashed against his restraints, eyes fixed on the window facing the ocean, repeating, "They'll never forgive us now. They're coming ashore." 3 other Indianapolis survivors in separate wards reportedly exhibited identical behavior at precisely the same moment, despite having no contact with each other. All described seeing merged American-Japanese faces pressed against their windows. From the classified addendum to the official Indianapolis incident report, multiple survivors independently report identical hallucinations involving deceased personnel from both American and Japanese navies. 5 survivors attempted suicide by drowning when near open water, claiming, "They're calling us to join the fleet below." Morgan never returned to sea. He lived in Oklahoma, as far from the ocean as possible, until his death in 1983. His official cause of death was listed as heart failure, though the attending physician noted, patient was found clutching dog tags from USS Indianapolis and a torn piece of what appears to be a Japanese naval uniform. The last entry in his personal diary, dated August 6, 1945. What we saw in the water wasn't imagination. We're being punished for what we helped create. The bomb changed everything. The dead know it. They're organizing, and with every new soul we send to join them, their fleet grows stronger. In his home, investigators found hundreds of newspaper clippings about drowning incidents across America. Each one annotated in Morgan's handwriting with the same 5 words. They're coming further inland now. If the voices from the USS Indianapolis still echo in your mind, the War Maestro invites you to dive deeper into our archive. Ensure your feet are dry. Check that there are no unexplained wet footprints leading to your screen, and subscribe to uncover more classified horrors from military history. Activate the notification bell. You'll want immediate warning when our next sealed file breaks containment. Share this account with fellow seekers of naval nightmares and battlefield hauntings who understand that war creates ghosts unlike any other. Leave a comment below. Have you ever felt watched while swimming in open water? Or perhaps you've experienced that strange moment when the ocean suddenly goes quiet, as if listening to your thoughts. Remember, the dead of both sides are still recruiting, and their fleet grows with every telling of their tale.